Good afternoon, everyone. Apologies for being a little tardy in the start today. We had an executive session before, and we're going to go back into executive session when our meeting is over. So we appreciate your indulgence. Noting that we have a quorum of 6 members of the board, I'll call the meeting to order. I'd ask for a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Herm S. to adopt the agenda. A second? Seconded by Bob Giddings. Any discussion? Comments? All in favor of the agenda? Thank you. I'm going to skip to item 4 on your agenda, a presentation by Oakmont Senior Living regarding a revision of the Elnoka development plans, and ask Sue Millar, chair of the Oakmont Community Development Committee, to introduce the Oakmont Senior Living spokesman and their program.
Starting in the usual way, does this mic work?
The Oakmont Community Development Committee is very pleased to tell you that I think we're looking at the final phase of our dealings with Elnoka, because today you are going to see a new plan that was presented to us just about 2 months ago. And I think that this is going to work out well for all of us. Today, Mr. Stephen McCullough is here from Oakmont Senior Living. He will be making the presentation. But Steve, before you do, I want to thank Wally Schill, who is here today with his recovering knee. First time, well, the second time I've seen you in public since your operation. And Wally is the one that pursued and didn't give up and got us organized and has seen this through from day one, and we really owe you a big thank you. So with that, I'm going to introduce Mr. Steve McCullough from Oakmont Senior Living.
Thank you, Steve.
Good afternoon.
You have to put it close to your mouth. Second.
How's that? I'll just hold it.
All right.
Again, I'm Steve McCullough
With
real close.
Yeah.
Okay. Steve McCullough with Oakmont Senior Living. Thank you for having me here today to go over our plans for the elevator project. I gotta have my notes. And I was in front of you about 15 months ago presenting our project at that time, and that we had taken in front of the OCDC. And I'm going to put this on for a second. There we go.
Can these spotlights be turned off? Yes. See the screen better? Go around.
And our project continues to be the Elnoka CCRC, which is a continuing care retirement community reserved for residents 60 years of age and older, a gated retirement community. Now, 15 months ago, I came before you with this plan, our original plan. This plan here, and asked for the OVA's support as we take it forward to the city of Santa Rosa. And for that support, we committed to restrict our project to senior housing 55 and older, except for 61 units of employee housing and approximately 5,000 square feet of commercial space along Highway 12. I'll point out that Highway 12 is at the very top up there, the commercial right there, and the employee housing. And we also committed to limiting the buildings to no more than 3 stories. That's these buildings right here, 7 buildings right in here, 3-story buildings, and another rental building for senior rentals was 3-story. We also committed with the care facility on site, although the care facility priority would go first to our own residents, we committed that with Oakmont, the OVA support, we would give second priority to residents of Oakmont. Now, over the past 15 months, we've researched the market and the demand for various types of senior housing and care, and we concluded that we needed a better mix of single-story houses, which we feel is more in tune and likened with Oakmont, and we did not need the on-site employee housing, and there was very limited demand for commercial space, either office or retail. We met with the OCDC, and at the time we invited adjacent neighbors that lived right along the property line there to the OCDC meeting, and we presented our revised project. Now, I want to kind of go through here. Again, it'll remain a continuing care retirement community. It's a gated community with individual houses and condominiums for sale. The commercial space, whoops, oh, hit the wrong one, sorry. The commercial space at the top has been removed, and the employee housing that was right in here has been removed. We moved the 3-story buildings. Oops, sorry. We moved the 3-story buildings that were along the hillside here. We moved those closer to the care center here, and also we moved those to the back side of the hillside there. We increased the number of the single-story houses, and those houses will range from 1,200 to 2,400 square feet. The care center right there remains in the same spot, and across from the care center is the recreation facility and common areas and amenities. Swimming pool, bocce courts, things of that sort. In the main building, there will be a fitness center, there will be a restaurant, dining room, and lounge. And just to kind of go over the number of units, because we had comments from the OCDC, it all of a sudden looked like it was a more dense project, but in reality, this is the comparison of the units. Now, the original was 619 units. Our proposed revision is 479 units. As you can see on the very top line, the 3-story condominium buildings had 360 units in it. They're now down to 246. The care, assisted living and care building at 90 units is now 75. The single-story cottages were 4 units, and now it's 158 units. There are no longer any apartments, and there's no longer any employee housing. This section right here, and I'll go to the next line, is right, if you're looking along this property line right here. So our building, our 3-story building here sits lower than the single-family residence on the other side of the property line. And you can see that the floor level of this single-family home is right about between the second and third story of our building. So our building does not in any way loom over the other houses along the property line. We also this building, oops, sorry, I foul on this up, sorry. This building right here is the three-story building I'm talking about. One of the suggestions from the OCDC was they didn't, at the time, we had a building that had units on both sides, and they didn't like the fact that there were units that looked out over Oakmont. So what we did is we made it what is termed a single-loaded building, where the units, the hallway of the building is on the Oakmont side, and the units themselves actually look out over the recreation center, our recreation center, and amenities. We also, the parking used to face the Oakmont side. We turned around the parking so that the lights of the cars were facing our building and not towards Oakmont. So let me just kind of go over here again. As far as the overall project, we have Highway 12 at the very top, the entrance, which is a gated community. There's a gate entering onto the property. We have the care center there with the assisted living and dementia care. We have the recreation center. We have the condominiums around that. And we have the single-family, single-story homes all along the hillside. All along here. We have three-story buildings in the back side of the hillside, which would be, I guess, the south side of the hillside, that face toward Annandale Park. And then we also have additional single-story homes down here at the south end. We have another entrance along Melita Road, which is also a gated entrance. So with that, this is the preliminary site plan, and when I say preliminary, we feel it's pretty final. We're looking for the OVA's approval, review and approval of this, and then we will go forward and finalizing the plans, which means we get our civil engineers involved in everything. And I'm here to tell you that the project, with your approval, is going to be very, very similar to this. There might be a few little changes as far as the house moved here or house moved there, but basically the overall buildings, the main buildings and everything will stay right where they are. And again, the priority in the care center, first to our residents and then secondarily to the Oakmont residents. That pretty much completes my presentation, and I'm open for questions and respectfully ask your approval of our revised site. Thank you.
Do you think Steve could use this microphone and I can take this one around if people have wanted questions, if you wanted to? So I'll start down here. Tony and Heidi, but I'll give you the microphone.
Thank you. I'm Tony Lockowitz, 336 Belhaven Place. And I understand the proposal is to have no vehicular connection between Oakmont and Elnoka, is that correct?
That is correct.
Has any consideration been given to having an emergency-only access? And what I'm talking about is in the event, hopefully will never occur, if Highway 12 is closed down for a long period of time, Oakmonters would not be able to get into the city. They'd have to go all the way around to Kenwood and over to Bennett Valley Road. A connection to Melita Road, emergency only, in the event of something nasty happening, might be in our best interest. Thank you.
You know, I think that's a very good question, and I think given the situation, if there were an emergency situation and Highway 12 were blocked off, we would be more than happy to open our gates to let people go through. But that would be an emergency.
I know, I don't know if that's on, it's not.
No.
Somebody's voice is coming
How's that?
No.
You mean a road coming from Oakmont? Mr. McCullough, Tony meant coming from Oakmont, not coming from into Highway 12. If somebody in an emergency, go from Oakmont
Oh, if
into you to Elnoka, without going to 12.
how's that? Does that work? How about if I yell? I'll yell. I understand your question now. I'm sorry, I was thinking you were talking about Highway 12. But at one time,
There you go.
at one time, we had asked the OCDC for access right about there for golf cart only. There is a trail, an old trail right in around here into Oakmont. We would still like to have a golf cart access if we could, but if it's not within your approval, we would still be glad to offer an access gate there for emergency purposes. I don't see any problem there.
My question is totally different. I'm Nancy Caldwell. What does continuing care mean for all the single-family homes?
Continuing care means that care is offered. It's an entirely licensed development. So if somebody were living in their home and they needed care in their home and they did not, either the care center was full or they wanted to stay in their home, maybe the couple was there, one needed care and the other didn't, we would provide care in their home.
So it's sort of assisted living, but in a house.
Correct.
Richard Duncan, 8851 Mountain Way. Along the same theme that Tony was asking, on cases of emergency, is there any exit to the south from the community?
Yes, there's an actual exit right there, and it too will be onto Channel Drive. It too will be an emergency access only. There's a utility line about right there on our property, but that the city needs to get to as well.
Lisa Berman, 8862 Oak Truck Place. This is an over 55 community, not 60, correct?
Over 60.
Over 60 or 55?
Well, before, when we had the apartments, it was 55 and older, so people 55 and older could live in the apartments. This is a continuing care retirement community now, and there are no apartments. So when it's a continuing care retirement community, the state licensing requires 60.
What are the home prices going to be, and what are the HOA fees?
We have not established those yet.
Even a ballpark?
No, not really. Not really.
Excuse me, Steve, did you say 50 is the age for your
60. 60.
60? Thank you.
Steve, since some of your construction work will be very close to some Oakmont homes, will there be such things as dust suppression? And what will be the hours of operation for construction?
Good question. Yes, there will be dust control. The city requires that in all construction projects, and of course they'll be watching us very closely on that. So yes, there will be. Hours of construction, I think, are usually 7 to 7, if I'm not mistaken. And I think they allow it also on Saturdays, not on Sundays, and I think not on holidays.
John, hold it right up to your mouth.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yeah. Because we can hardly hear over here. I'm concerned about Route 12. Route 12 now, the section between Oakmont, particularly where it's all one way, to where your entrance is going to be, where there are driveways. The driveways, when people come in and try to get into the drive or out, it's a very, very dangerous area, a lot of accidents. And are you going to have a traffic light or only a stop sign? And have you taken into account the amount of traffic that's passing 12, and you're very close to a traffic light? How are you going to get out or in without blocking traffic on Route 12?
Very good questions. We have actually received approval from Caltrans to put a light at the main entrance of our project. So there will be a traffic light there. And we have done the traffic studies, and it's all justified and to put in the light, and we've gone to Caltrans and gotten their approval on it.
Ken Cronin, 7103 Overlook. Some of the comments or maybe even complaints of Spring Lake is they move in and it's a poor parking situation. they park over in Spring Lake and they physically have to walk some distance to where they reside. Are you going to have the same situation?
No, we are not. Each one of the single-story homes will have their own garage, most of them two-car garages. The three-story buildings there and also up here all have underground parking so that the resident will be able to drive under the building and go up the elevator right to their residence. We do have parking throughout on the streets throughout the development. We have parking right in front of the care center, ample parking there. And we also have excess parking right there that's available for people that actually work on the site. So we feel that we were more than adequately parked.
Any more questions for Steve?
I was a little confused when you said you had a restaurant in the rec room. Is this community one of those in which when you buy in, you automatically get your meals, two a day?
A continuing care retirement community is required to provide 3 meals a day to all the residents. So whether the resident wants 3 meals a day, they might just want 2 or 1 meal a day, but we are required to provide that. The dining room in the main, all the single-story houses and all the condominium units in the main buildings, they all have full kitchens. The resident can do their own cooking, but we will be providing meals in the recreation building, a full dining room, and a lounge as well. There will be, pardon me?
What about transportation then for these people down on the other more part, the other in the middle if they can't walk?
If they can't walk, we will have ballet shuttles to take them down there if they need it. And there's also a considerable amount of parking right around the recreation center for them to just drive their car down and park as well.
You're saying people would come from the houses down here at the bottom and go clear up there to get their food?
Yeah.
Well, for the meals that they want, yes.
But they're paying for 3 meals a day.
Well, not necessarily. We have to provide them for a cost, but if they only want, say, 20 meals a month or 10 meals a month, they could pay for that separately. It's all.
We have a question over here.
Well, I don't have a question. I'm Wally Schilp, Belfast Support. After spending close to 7 years leading Oakmont's fight to get a decent development on these 68 acres, I have to comment that this is as good as we will ever see. And OSL in the last year and a half has more than, well, I've been over backwards to solve all of the problems we bring up to them. And I need to say that I'm 100% behind this particular plan and think they've done an excellent job in meeting our questions and in effect, in a couple places, demands, which they don't have to do, but they have done it. So I think this is an outrageously good plan for the city.
I'd also like to tell you that the PowerPoint program with these diagrams that Steve's been showing you will be on the website, not just video of Steve, presenting, but the actual pictures will be up there. So if you would like a closer look, you can do that. So maybe a couple more questions. And, okay, Julie.
No, you have to say your name.
Okay, Judy Howell. I was wondering, having worked for cities and stuff, that sometimes there's certain requirements in housing that can accommodate different the income levels of people and disability levels and so on. Are you required all that, or is this somehow different that you have no other government money and therefore you can do?
We handle that by the size of the units that we provide. We have units that go down to 800 square feet and then all the way up to 2,400 square feet. So in a senior community like this, the 800 square foot obviously is a much lesser price and cost to the residents, so that in fact qualifies it for the affordability portion.
One more question over here.
Julie Keel, 6262 Meadowstone. 3 issues. I don't know if you have an animal park. Also guaranteed access to Annandale for people only and no bicycle. And also the golf cart situation. I'm not sure how you can make an emergency trail out of a golf cart.
Okay, the first comment about the dog park. We do have made arrangements. I'm trying to see if I can find them in here. There's a couple little spots right in here. There's another one down here for dog parks for the residents to take them. There's one also up by the main building. So I think we have either a total of 3 or 4 actual dog parks throughout our development for pets. The second one was the emergency road.
Continued access to Annandale without
Oh, right. We will provide access for our residents down at the southern, probably at that gate right there for the emergency gate. There'll probably be a walking gate there for our residents to get into Annandale. And then as far as we'll have to work with the OVA as far as an emergency access there. We'll be glad to get our driveway, if you will, up to the property line that would accommodate emergency road access. And then at that point, it would probably be some sort of a gate that is probably triggered by the fire department or something that would be able to open it in case of an emergency. But on the other side, we can't really do anything on the other side, on the Oakmont side. But as I remember, I think there is an old trailway, a trail that could be probably converted for emergency access.
Okay, last question over here.
Hello.
Okay. You were talking about that emergency exit. That would be by where the water filtration plant is?
No. Well, the one for Oakmont, I think, would probably be right about here. There is the water filtration is down here, so I don't think that would be the emergency access.
Well, you were talking about one for the golf carts. I think that's probably what they were talking about before.
I'm not sure on that. Whether we had one planned before. Right?
Okay, Steve, thank you very much for coming today. I said last question, sorry, Bill. You can look at the live stream on the website. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'll be glad to wait around and answer questions.
Bill, before you step away, you described that the single-family residences would be for sale, and that the condominiums and the multi-story structures would be for sale. Describe for us what Oakmont Senior Living's ongoing role in the landscaping and maintenance of those facilities may be, in addition to your responsibility for providing meals and so forth in the recreation facility.
Thank you. Again, because it is a continuing care retirement community which is licensed by the state, we are required to do the ongoing maintenance on the outside of the buildings, and the landscaping and everything. That is part of our responsibility. We retain ownership to the overall property, not the fee ownership to the individual house itself, but the rest of the common areas, we retain ownership to that. It's our responsibility to maintain that and take care of it. This is a business. Our responsibility is to keep this development as nice as possible, because there's always people moving in and out, and it's constantly being resold to new buyers that are coming in to move in. So it's in our best interest too to maintain the quality of the grounds and buildings.
For those of you in the audience who may not be aware of it, in December of 2012, Oakmont Senior Living and the Oakmont Village Association actually entered into, signed, and had recorded a development agreement regarding the initial plan that Steve showed you. And so what our association is now going to have to do is to work with Oakmont Senior Living to come up with an amended version of that agreement as a reflection of Oakmont's support of this activity, and that's intended, once we've worked out the details, to facilitate the processing as far as the city is concerned. Did I say that correct?
You said that very well.
So for those of you that have not had an opportunity to express your questions, or who look at this material on the easel boards, or who look at it on the recorded version of today's meeting, and come up with additional comments or questions, please be sure and pass those on to our manager or to individual directors, because we're not going to be deciding on that revised agreement today, but we do need to move forward with it as effectively as we can. And so in the course, I believe, of the next month, we will want to have all your input that we can get in order to work with our attorney and with Oakmont Senior Living on the revised agreement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I'm not sure how long your meeting's going to go, but I'll be glad to stay around until after the meeting and answer anybody's questions.
Thank you. Can we let a little more light into the room naturally for the meeting? Maybe the shades behind you there, Dutch, or something, so that... Can this one go up there? Behind me here?
No.
Don't do that, okay. You can't get a picture, is that it? Yeah. Just three. Thank you. To proceed with our agenda, we deliberately skipped over item 3 in order to let Steve make the presentation, and those of you who came only for that purpose to have a chance to participate. But the item that we skipped over is probably the most important reason I feel for our getting together today. Many of you recall from our annual meeting that we recognized Oakmont's volunteer spirit in a number of different ways. And we also recognized Dutch Licklider as our volunteer of the year. And Dutch is back there behind the camera today, continuing that important service. But in addition, as I commented at the annual meeting, of Dutch having to work that night, so that we had to make some other arrangements to cover the cameras to get him down in front and recognizing. We had a second award that we had to postpone that the board was very much desiring to present. And so today we're going to take the opportunity to take care of that delayed event by presenting Oakmont's Community Service Award. And I'd like Pat Amadeo and Don Appleby to come and join at the microphone over here on the side. Because it takes more than one person to properly recognize individuals who merit the Community Service Award. board. And
Your hearing aid.
I'll put it in my pocket for the moment. It's this thing on the side. The Community Service Award this year goes to Wally Schill. And here, Wally, you need to really get up with your walker and join us up here.
You can make it, Wallace? Oh, yeah. Stay down for a minute.
We can bring it to you.
Oh, you don't want him up here to listen to you directly?
I think he can hear us back there. His hearing's pretty good. He's not good, but his hearing is good.
Thank you, Don. Why don't you go ahead?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I've been in Oakmont since 1997, and the first meeting I came to, the microphones didn't work. Now, isn't that interesting? Here we are 17 years later, and the only problem we have is microphones. The shades work, the lights work, the fans work, everything but the microphones. Anyway, I have just a few things to say, and then Pat will
Right behind you.
Pat will wind up. You know, rarely in life do we run into a truly extraordinary person, and you think back of your lifetime, and I think you'll agree with that. Some of us are lucky and have met a few. Some of us probably have never met any. But I must say, I had that opportunity early on after we moved here in 1997, and it was purely by coincidence, and I didn't realize it at the time. And here's what happened. Dorothy and I were attending a food, fun, and frolic potluck dinner here at the East Rec Center, which they had once a month on Saturday night. And before the dinner, everyone had a few libations, and they were engaged in schmoozing around and talking to everyone, as people do. And my objective, one of my objectives at the meeting, was to find a bridge player, because I wanted to start a men's bridge group, and I only had a couple of people lined up. So I was scanning the room, and I saw this large, jovial-looking chap walking around, schmoozing extraordinarily well. So I went up to him and I said, hey fella, do you play bridge? And he said, oh yeah, sure. And I said, would you like to join me in starting a men's bridge group? And he said, yeah, I'd love to. And so we've been playing bridge ever since. That's what, 16 years, and still going strong. Well, anyway, the gentleman who I had met and didn't realize at the time that he was one of these extraordinary people was Wally Schill. And so I said, my gosh, what a guy. And then shortly after that, I had the good fortune to be elected to the board. And after I started serving and realized what was going on in Oakmont, then I truly began to realize what Wally was doing and contributing. He has been a real contributor. He chaired the Architectural Committee for years. He worked on the Long Range Planning Committee. He did so many things that we can't even list them all. Ad hoc committees for this and that and the other thing. And as you've been told, he was very instrumental in El Noca going from what we considered a horror to something that's turned out to be extraordinarily good. And so, I think that Wally deserves the title of an extraordinary person. And I think Oakmont should acknowledge that and think well of him, as I certainly do, and I value him as a friend. Wally, good luck.
The difference between Don and I is that he has handwritten his notes out in perfect script, while I was forced to use a computer. For many of us, he's the first person in Oakmont that we met when we decided to move here. He's the first person many residents call to get a question answered, seek advice, or just get some help figuring out to make something happen here. He's top of the list when you need a last-minute bridge substitute, too. He's our historian, our fact checker, and our problem solver. Of course, it's Wally. A longtime host, he gives tours to potential new residents. As a longtime member of so many Oakmont committees, a longtime volunteer for Oregon Drivers, he's done that for 4 years, on the Architectural Committee for 4, Nominating Committee Chair for 5, and Board Member for 1. He's frequently found at Oakmont bridge tables, bocce courts, and lawn bowling greens. One assumes that if that is the case, that he never gets off campus. That would be a mistake. In 2005, the city of Santa Rosa awarded Wally their Volunteer of the Year award. So we're a little slow on the uptake. He's mentored boys at the Sierra Transitory Home who were from the juvenile hall. He's volunteered at the Children's Village. He's delivered bulletins for the Cultural Arts Council. He's been an active member of the Santa Rosa Hosts, and he's done the books for the Wild Bird Consortium, and that list goes on. I've known Wally since 2003, when he got me on the Architectural Committee. I've served with him on the Long Range Planning Committee, and then for years on the Community Development Committee, where I held his coat as he moved easily between the residents, the developers, and City Hall to craft a solution to address Oakmont's concerns to the Elnoka development. You've just seen the successful outcome of these efforts. Wally's work on our behalf is always done with respect for differing views, a smile, and a sense that we can make it work. Today's award is well-deserved, and I know it comes with a heartfelt thanks from every member of us who's had the benefit of working with him over the years. I'd also like to thank his long-suffering wife, Bev, who so generously has shared his time with us.
I haven't been suffering.
Stay right there. I'll let Bev hold the box, and a little thank you that's in there. She can take care of better than you can. But Wally, on behalf of the board and the community, Oakmont Village Association Board of Directors is honored to present the 2014 Oakmont Community Service Award to Walter Wally Schilp, with grateful recognition of his enduring support of the Oakmont community.
Well, I guess I'm gonna have Pat over for dinner now. And Don, no, I will not be throwing, unless I'm your partner. But thank you all. I noticed a couple of years ago that I had gone almost 6 years without getting on our golf course because I didn't have time. So now I'm going to make time. I got a new knee a few weeks ago, and I'm gradually bowing out of all the stuff I've been doing. I'm going to get back on the lawn bowling green and the golf course and this and that. But I'll be here to answer questions if you have any, but I'm not joining any more committees. I want to thank all of you. It's been fun working with the various boards over the years. One of the beauties of Oakmont is also one of its detriments. You make so many friends, you can't have a party. Because you can't fit that many people into your whole house and yard. So I find that is my biggest complaint here. Too many good friends. And I thank you all.
Well, with my passing the pleasure of these two first events on the calendar, it seems mundane to go to the members' open forum as the next item on the agenda. But the microphone is working, and if there are open forum comments residents would like to make. Now is the time, and the lights aren't working, so we'll use our 3-minute timer. Tony, if you want to take the first shot.
Hello, I'm Tony Lockowitz, 336 Bellhaven Place. I'm the chairman of the Oakmont Long Range Planning Committee. First, I would like to congratulate the newly elected members of the board of directors and wish both the new directors and those currently serving their existing their existing terms, the very best of luck in guiding Oakmont over the next few years. As you know, the Long Range Planning Committee has been working on the preparation of a long-range plan for Oakmont since last year. In October of 2013, the Board of Directors voted to endorse and support this plan. We are about halfway through our work and are still hopeful of completing the plan by the end of this year. However, like all such endeavors, there are a few bumps in the road. To date, we have prepared several elements or chapters of the plan and have posted them on the OVA website and have placed copies in the library. In fact, this is the binder that will go back to the library after today's meeting that you should look for, and it contains all of the completed elements and work to date. Also, many articles on these elements have appeared in the Oakmont News. Yet, we still have the feeling that there's more that needs to be done to reach the average Oakmont resident and engage them in the process of plan development. We need to do more to encourage their input and make this plan theirs, not ours. A long-range plan is a roadmap to the future. It is a written document that will get us out of the rut of making short-range decisions in favor of a logical guide to keep Oakmont a desirable place to live for years to come. Our resources are limited. Money is not available to do everything we want to do, so we will have to prioritize things. For example, we are nearing our peak population. Boomers are moving in. Our facilities are aging. There is little room for expansion. Our bylaws and governing documents are outdated. And our beautiful Valley of the Moon is rapidly developing around us, and so much more. We admit to not having all the answers right now. However, there are many options that we can suggest to make the process more inclusive. Let Oakmonters become part of the process. Let your committees have meaningful input. Our committee would like to have a work session with the board sometime within the next few months. We feel time's of the essence. We don't want to continue working on a plan that the board and Oakmont residents don't understand or feel involved in. We also don't want to see the new board develop their goals without some shared vision of the future. Through our manager, Cassie Turner, we will provide you with a schedule of meetings that we hope will work. We know you have a lot of work to do, and everyone wants something done now. But before you make any major decisions, we ask that we have the opportunity to discuss our plan with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a short additional comment here. After this presentation.
Name, please, for everybody.
William B.
Thank you.
Thank you. I thought you might be interested to get a perspective of this development here. Mr. Gallagher is behind this development. Anoka and the brand new development just in that immediate vicinity on Thomas Lake Harris. If you want a perspective of that this development, take a look at those because they'll be exactly the same probably. And you've got 60 acres of property up here to develop. So I just thought I might like to expand upon that a little bit as long as you're all here today.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Robert Personet, and I'm here to find out if any progress has been made on my request for electric doors for the locker room in East Rec. I was wondering, where do we stand at this present time?
We have discussed that, and we are not pursuing electric doors at this East Rec Center facility. We are pursuing them at the remodeling at the West Rec Center as a first step in the direction that you suggested.
All right, thank you. The next question I have is, the West Rec is impossible for me to get into the pool because of the size of the steps. They're exceptionally big, and people with handicaps cannot go in and out of that pool. This pool is very accessible with the lower steps and the railings to take you into the pool. So to my looking at the situation, that's not going to help me. And for me to have to ride my scooter from Oak Leaf Drive all the way down to East Rec to use the pool doesn't make sense when I have one in my backyard.
All I can tell you is that we take things one step at a time, Robert, and the other aspect of what's being looked at the West Rec is the possibility of an automatic chair that can take people from the side of the pool and into the water as a further accessibility issue. We don't move quickly, but we're trying to move in an effective and responsive way. And I would hope that services like the Oakmont bus that could take you to the West Rec along with your scooter would help you use an accessible facility at West Rec sooner than we may be able to move ahead with the kind of ideas you're suggesting at the East Rec.
Yes, I agree with you. The only thing is, the Oakmont bus does not operate on Saturday or Sunday in Oakmont.
That is a handicap, I agree. It's not a perfect world.
I
We're
know,
trying to
I
move
know,
ahead.
but I'm just saying. The other question I have is, I've been asked for a number of my residents, neighbors, who knew I was coming to this meeting today to check out my problem, to ask the board if the Burger Center, the new Burger Center outside is beautiful. What a wonderful job, and credit to you people. And I'm sure we all appreciate it. But the benches that are on the sunny side, if they were moved to the shady side, where we could look at the mountains and sit in the shade and enjoy it more than sitting in the sun looking at a building. So I don't know if that's available, how much of a job that would be just to move them across. So we would look and enjoy the beauty and not have the sun on our face. It's just a request by me, my neighbors, and my friends. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy, is it on? Nancy Caldwell, 316 Mountain Vista Court. I'm calling as some of you have probably, if you look at the buzz and next door, have seen that there were comments. I posted several different things trying to get people to comment on what they thought could help Oakmont become more gorgeous and more fun to live in. And some people, a couple, two or three anyway, have commented that they couldn't get into committees or onto committees because of the requirements that you have to have experience. This came up because some other people suggested that those postings of mine should be dealt with in the committee structure. But if you don't have the qualifications that the committee requires, you can't get on the committee. So my suggestion or request would be that, yes, I agree it makes sense to ask for people who have experience to be on the various committees, but also to let people who don't have the experience but have goodwill, common sense, some ideas, to also let them be on the committees if they would like to. Does that make any sense?
Thank you.
My name is John of Oak Mesa Garage in Oakmont. And I have two issues that I just want to bring to the board's attention. Number one, the ever-growing used car lot that's opened up on Oakmont Drive in front of the Burger Center. They started with 1 or 2 cars. On weekends, there are, I don't know how many, and not only people from Oakmont are attending and walking along Burger Center, but I also notice now quite a number of people from outside are coming in. And I don't think that we should have used cars on a constant basis on Oakmont Drive, right in front of Burger Center. Number one, there's some legality involved that it's not permissible. Number two, I don't think it looks very good. And having some of the outside people roaming around is not what I think Oakmont wants. And the other thing is that last weekend I was surprised because things had gotten so much better, but the amount of signs, handmade signs in Oakmont has proliferated tremendously. It's estate sales, garage sales, and I think obviously the realtors' signs are absolutely necessary, either advertising for sale or sold and so on. But the number of signs that are being put up is gotten on balloons, on lousy pieces of paper, on new companies come in. They don't only have the big signs in front of their building, but they put up signs all over the yard. It goes contrary to what you have us do, which I applaud. We keep very neat yards, we keep neat places, and it makes Oakmont look terrible. And even the new construction, I think that they're very, very good about, with such a big job, keeping it fairly clean. The signs are terrible. Even the realtors put paper over their sign, which is half off from the wind and so on. And I think it ought to be eliminated. And I don't know how you're going to do that, but someone should be responsible for maybe a month of taking them down and they'll get the message. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Hi, I'm Peggy. I live and work here in Oakmont. I work at OAS Management. Just wanted to let you know that there is not a week goes by when some of the residents want to know when we will get back the accounting for OVA. And I tell them they have to talk to the board, just thought I'd let you know. And also on Cassie's report, I noticed that there's a statement that says that CFM, when they took over the accounting, they weren't tracking the rentals, and they were available at any time when OAS Management had the records. So I don't think we have them now, but we had them at the time that it was turned over to CFM. And just keep in mind, OAS Management is still interested in doing the accounting work for OVA. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Any more open forum comments for us today? Thank you for those. The announcements that I have are brief. First, I want to, I'm sure you're all aware that the Bocce Club is sponsoring a ribbon cutting for the new facilities at the West Rec Center, and that'll take place at 10 o'clock in the morning on May the 1st. And if you haven't experienced bocce before, I'm sure they would love to have you not only for the ribbon cutting, but to begin to enjoy the activity that's involved in the Bocce Club's activity in that nicely developed site. And the second is to once again acknowledge the work of Al Thomas and his tax aid program here in Oakmont and all the related volunteers. This year they completed 461 tax forms for residents. That's up from the record of 450 last year, and certainly an appreciated volunteer service as far as Oakmont is concerned. So our thanks to them. Our secretary is on vacation on the East Coast, and so it falls to me to summarize the executive session minutes that he would normally report on. We had an executive session on Tuesday, March the 18th, And at that executive session, we addressed contract negotiations in relationship to the West Recreation Center, and we addressed an architectural violation, and we addressed discussion of proposing to the Berger Foundation a letter of intent to purchase the beauty parlor. And that was the conclusion of the executive session activities on March the 18th. I also need to announce that there were 3 actions, as shown on your agenda, that were taken outside the board meeting. The first was my approval for a replacement heater number 1, here at the East Redwood Pool for $7,849.42. Approving it in advance this way for a necessary repair, avoided delays in getting heating back online. I also approved a change order for $9,950 to add 2 handicap parking places to the redesign work being done at the Berger Auditorium on the north side to complement the work that has been finished on the east side. And our manager, Cassie Turner, approved a $1,900 expenditure to proceed with a preliminary layout plan for pickleball courts in the vicinity of the existing putting green and possible relocation of that putting green to another part of that extended site once we can resolve questions about the drainage area that hopefully can be filled in to give us expanded usable development space. And so the next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the items A through D, item 7 on the consent calendar? Moved by Herm Hess, seconded by Andy Altman. Any discussion about those? All in favor of approval? Thank you. I wanted to take a moment with that approval to comment on item D2. All of the representatives who have served for years and years under the chairmanship of Tamara Weiss have decided that the time has come for fresh blood to address the issues associated with our bus service here in Oakmont. And so the agenda item reflects the resignation of all those long-serving bus committee members. They're happy to report as part of their resignations that the bus service is running extremely well, serving increasing number of residents, not only for travel within Oakmont, but to off-campus sites, which it does on a regular basis, 3 days a week. But it also calls to mind for the other board members working together to help us address how we want to continue in the future with attention to the bus activities, whether it's the annual renewal of the contract or continuing questions that come up as far as our relationships with the city are concerned in the effective operation of that bus. Item 8 on the agenda is the treasurer's report.
John, I'm over here.
Excuse me.
The one question I wanted to bring up on the consent calendar, and that was for the approval and the recognition of the swim club. One of the recommendations that I had about having the swim club reactivated it's on page 38 of your board packet, is I'd like it to be a little bit more structured this time, and maybe we could discuss it at a board workshop, but I'd like to see 1 or 2 swimmers from each pool location to be included in the committee or the club, and I'd like the committee to be tasked with the lane divider issue at the East Brick Pool. In other words, should the pool be an official lap pool? In that case, should all the lanes be divided? This has become a very hot issue between the swimmers who use the East. And I'd like to have the swim club look into the best type of ADA lift chair for the West Rec Center.
I certainly think that's appropriate, Cassie. I guess the question will always come up, is this a club or is this a committee? And I would just, if we need to have a swim committee, then maybe that's something that should come to a future board meeting. But in the meantime, unless other board members have a suggestion, I would just urge you to work with the swim club people and get their valuable input on these issues. But I don't think we have the same kind of relationship with clubs that we do with committees. When you talked with them, were they amenable to working in these areas, or has there not been any discussion?
There hasn't been any discussion because I didn't know if it was appropriate or not.
Is there any objection as far as the directors are concerned? Having the manager work with them on these issues that she's raised? Any suggestions, John?
No, I'm definitely in favor of it. Is this working? No, you can hear me. You can't, sorry.
Hold it close.
That's not the problem.
It's working.
It's number 6.
I got it right here.
Did it make any difference? Yeah. The point I wanted to make is that, I get calls from people that are in different areas, being the vice president, trying to be helpful and coordinate with everybody to, can't make everybody happy all the time, it's impossible. But sometimes different people, in the swim groups, they have different goals and different times and different things, and sometimes what one group wants is different from what another group wants. And it's my belief that we can encourage those people to sit down together, whether they're clubs or later on have to form a committee. I'd rather keep the decision-making level as low as possible. To get them to work together and come up with recommendations that suit everybody as a compromise, and then come back to us and say, this is what we'd like to do. I think it's much better to do it that way than to turn around and dictate the way things should be. So I'm definitely in favor of encouraging people to work together, and I think that's what Kathy had in mind.
The other thing is Mark in the room? I can't see him.
Yes.
There he is. Mark, didn't you tell me that the pool temperature effective May 1st is supposed to go down to what?
80 degrees.
Al, I want that in the paper. Because I'll tell you, we have wars over those temperatures. So I'd like to let everyone know that as of May 1st, the temperatures are going to be lowered to 80 degrees. And if the pool people have a problem with that, I'd like to refer those problems or complaints to the pool committee so they can determine what the best temperature is.
In view of your directive, my question is why?
I might not get one complaint about it being 80 degrees, but it's always been an issue ever since I've been here, the pool temperatures at all 3 of the pools. And if they vary by 1 degree, we get phone calls.
I believe what Cassie is referring to is that during a previous board's discussion of pool temperatures, a series of decisions were made that the west pool at some part of the year would have the water in that pool attempted to have it at 86 degrees, and at the central pool at 84 degrees, and at the east pool 82 degrees. And then when the summer hot weather comes along, each one of those pools was to be adjusted downward in terms of what we spend to heat the pool to a certain level. And somehow we never get past that process without a lot of input from residents.
Well stated.
Thank you, Cassie. Next, we have the treasurer's report, Chuck.
Hey, for the month of March, income was $171,000 with expenses of $165,000, leaving us a surplus of $5,500. On a year-to-date basis, income was $505,000, which is 2% worse than budget, with expenses of $473,000, which is 9% better than budget, leaving us a surplus of $32,000 for the first 3 months. The transfers to the funds were all equal to or better than budget, with 1 home being sold in the orchard. And the cash balances, the operating fund, $807,000, asset replacement, $986,000, capital improvement, $1,366,000, catastrophe, $103,000, total cash balance, $3,261,000, excuse me. And on a quarterly basis, there's several statements I need to make. It's required that we review the asset replacement fund at least quarterly and report to the residents. For 2014, the monthly transfer was to be increased to $42,667,000. We have transferred that exact amount each month and will continue to do so for the rest of the year. It's also a requirement to review the bank reconciliations quarterly. I've reviewed the bank reconciliations and verified the amounts for the balance sheet and the bank statements. Also quarterly, I'm to report on the cash position for all funds. In April, we renewed one CD with Mutual of Omaha for $300,000 at 9 basis points, and another CD at Luther Burbank for $250,000 at 83 basis points. All funds are fully FDIC insured. We've had CDs with interest rates ranging between 9 and 83 basis points, and savings accounts ranging between 10 and 20 basis points, and several non-interest-bearing checking accounts.
So your report is we're not making money on our money.
I don't believe anybody is.
John, I'd like to go back to 7A1 for just a moment.
Let's finish with his report.
Okay.
Motion to accept the treasurer's report. Moved by Bob Giddings, seconded by Herm Hess. All in favor? Thank you for the reports, Chuck. Yes, Herm, you want to go back to item 1?
In 7A1, in the minutes, on page 9 of our board packet, in item 3, there was a mention by Sue Millar that the petition by Kenwood residents is circulating Oakmont reference to Ledson Winery development in Kenwood. She encourages Oakmont residents' support. Is that for or against?
Against the development.
I don't know.
Is it for or against the Ledson development?
She was encouraged people to sign the petition against the Ledson development. Yes.
Okay. Okay, then,
Pardon me?
Do we amend those?
She's just raising the question.
Thank you.
Yes.
the next area I'd like to cover has to do with the Communications Committee. In their report, they talk about a charter being revised and approved within that committee. It needs to come for board approval.
It did.
It did?
It did.
When did that happen?
It happened 2 months ago. Their minutes are just late getting into our consent calendar.
Oh, okay. There was another statement in there whereby they, let's see, what page is that? Page 21, I think it is. Sorry about that. Oh, okay. They want to publicize the listing of the various members of committees, including the person in charge of the committee and all those who are in it. And that's not permitted. That should be treated as confidential and only for the purpose of the committee and the board.
Well, I don't want to debate the merits of your comment. All I want to say is that this is simply a report of what the Communications Committee was discussing. They haven't come forward with any recommendation for our approval. So their comments are advisory, but they need to come to us if they want to do something.
I'm just asking them that they be cognizant of the requirement.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the manager's report. Cassie, you want to hold forth there with that microphone in front of you, and I'll turn up the volume if we need. What's the number on your microphone?
And where might that be?
Oh, you're on your own, no?
Yes, I'm on my own. Okay, I'm on my own. I just wanted to add in my manager's report that all of you have. I did get many more comments regarding the West Rec remodel than what I've listed here because this report had to be a week prior to this board meeting. But I wanted to assure everyone that was gracious enough to write a comment that there are going to be many hooks installed that seem to be very important to the people who wrote in, that they have hooks to hang their clothes and their swimming suit on, that there will be more benches in the rec than what is designated in the plans. And someone suggested a bulletin board to post notes. That's a good idea. And apparently they didn't see that there was another emergency exit going to be in the both the ladies and the men's locker rooms. And it maybe isn't designated clearly enough on the plans, but there is a second door that's going to be there in both rooms.
Any members of the board have any questions or comments on the manager's report? Thank you. I see no additional reports beyond those that are in the committee minutes, and so we'll go to new business items. Item number 11A is the Finance Committee's recommendation in support of the staff's recommendation for extending our automatic chlorine dispensing activities to the central pool to realize the benefits that we have now realized at the West Rec Pool. This would be an expenditure of $3,500. Do I have a motion? Moved by Fran Diaz. Seconded by Bob Giddings. To approve the Finance Committee's recommendation and the staff's recommendation to spend $3,500 to install an auto chlorine and acid dispenser at the central pool. Discussion?
Yes, I have one question, Cassie, or maybe Chuck, I don't know which, but in the committee recommendations, you mentioned a 15% savings in chlorine and acid. Was that over a year's time, or?
No, it was less than that. Mark, do you want to address that?
Thank you.
More fully?
Yeah. Mark Rogers, maintenance manager. It's actually about 30% savings in chlorine and acid, and we have gone from about 2 hours a day maintenance to 2 hours a week for our chemicals. So
what period of time?
It's over a year since we installed it last fall. That's what we're phasing through into the central, and then later this year into this facility at Diggs.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Herb?
I have a question. I note that the bocce improvements were over budget by $13,000.
We're on a discussion of the acid dispenser motion. Please, let's stay with the subject.
I'm following the bouncing ball.
Is there any other discussion before we vote on the motion to approve the new acid and chemical dispenser at the central pool? All in favor? Thank you. The next item, 11B, is a recommendation for emergency lights at the Burger Center. This is another Finance Committee recommendation based on the recommendation of staff to meet code requirements as far as emergency floodlights are concerned. Mark, would you come back to the microphone before we look for a motion on this and tell us what this is about?
Okay, when the plan for the plaza was put together over the last almost 2 years, there was a proposal to install emergency light battery backup in 5 of the area lights, basically the pole lights, at a cost of $1,500 upcharge per pole. When this project came forward last fall, we looked at where we could save some money, and this was the ideal place to go ahead and do that. So we pulled those 5 poles off, installed standard poles in their place, and put a proposal forward to put emergency lights at a much lower cost on the outside of the burger center. There is a code requirement in the event of emergency lights need to kick on and have enough light to exit a building. This allows us to do that at a much lower cost than the area lighting.
May I have a motion to,
Discussion.
we need a motion, I'm sorry. Moved by Andy Altman that the Finance Committee's recommendation of staff's proposal for emergency lighting be approved. Is there a second? Fran seconds it. Discussion.
I fully agree with the need to do this. It saves us a lot of money and it solves the problem. I do have one question I'd like to pose, I guess, to Mark or someone else who had experience with this. I noticed that the estimate came in from James Electric. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me we had some really bad experience with James Electric's performance at the entrance at Pythian. And I'm not sure that's the best choice, but I can stand to be corrected instantly.
Yes, the history of Pythian is long and winding. I've had better experience on a separate project we did, a rewiring over at the west, and was responsive to this, giving an estimate for this project. Because of the time frame when we had them do this last fall, we'll go back, we'll revisit this number, and because I've had contact with more electricians over my time here, I'll go ahead and put it back out and see if we can get a lower number for this estimate. Want to go ahead and leave that budget number, but go ahead and see if we can go ahead and trim that cost a little bit.
I think that makes sense. As I said, I could be wrong about it, but I remember we went to real nosebleeds with them, and I wasn't really ready to give them any more business until they got their act straightened out. You may have a different experience, but I think we should accept your offer of looking at the price here, but going out and then looking at the alternate suppliers.
Absolutely.
Mark, are these installed inside the auditorium, above the doors, or outside?
They'll be installed outside, 5 locations above each door, and they are LED area lights, so we tied into the emergency light circuit, emergency exit circuit inside the building.
What triggers them? What makes them come on?
When power goes out, there's a contactor that clicks, and they go on they're going to be on for about 90 minutes after power goes out.
It won't be beige, will it?
They don't come in beige. They will be white though, so we're gonna have to.
Bob, I recognize that comment.
They're like beige.
Okay, guys. No other questions or comments? All in favor? Motion is adopted.
You didn't mention an amount.
I'm sorry, I should have. 2,250 is the amount approved. The next item is the Pleasant Vista Homeowner Association, and Bill Smith asked to speak to us about their concern about safety out there relative to fire in a troublesome hillside.
Yes, John, and I'm going to be talking about some figures that are here. You want me to go over there with the microphone, or?
We'll bring the microphone to you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, my name is Bill Smith. I live at 6386 Meadow Ridge Drive. One of the 3 members of a homeowners association. We only have 28 units in our association,
and we're near the west end of Oakmont. I apologize. If I'd known it was going to be this many people other than the board members, I would have tried to do a PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to be referring to this easel, which is not going to be all that convenient for you folks in the audience, but please be assured that each of the board members received a packet, and they have copies at the same scale as these, of these maps and photographs. And so they're at an advantage compared to you folks out there in the audience. So again, I said that we're at the west end, near the west end of Oakmont. It's this shaped area, and where it sits relative to other places that you're aware of, the West Rec Center is over here someplace. Stonebridge Road is down here, and between Stonebridge and our homeowners association is an area of OVA property. On that property is actually a trail. Some of you may be aware of that walking trail that takes you from Stonebridge up over towards the West Rec Center. Here's not actually a photo, a satellite image showing our area, and our residences are in here. This is the open area, and if you were closer, you'd be able to see that most of this is actually grassland, but some of it is covered with oak trees. And it's the oak trees that are the greatest concern. Here's a photograph of a residence, and one of these oak trees, it's probably 12 to 16 inches in diameter, that's dead and on the ground. There are other photographs showing similar conditions. The oak trees are, most of them are pretty healthy, but some of them clearly have dropped branches. This has been an ongoing concern to the homeowners, the fire hazard that they represent. Of course, this year is unusual, and there's even an article in the Press Democrat that I'm going to read some excerpts from, but it talks about state fire officials warn that drought conditions across California mean a likely early start to fire season. And they go on to say that requires homeowners to clear combustible materials around buildings, etc. That's what our greatest concern is, that removing this dead combustible material, which is in close proximity, less than 100 feet from the residences, and it can be displayed with the various maps. So it's not rocket science, as we say in this day and age, but a couple of crew, maybe was a couple of chainsaws, four people or whatever, it's been probably clear this stuff up in less than a day, maybe half a day. And I'm not an expert at estimating that kind of labor requirement, but something, so this is not a really big project, but it's something that has fire safety of concern. So that's it, and you do have the maps and photographs, copies of them, and if you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to address them.
My only question, Bill, was to ask you to share your thoughts on whether or not all of these large logs are in fact a fire hazard, and does every piece of wood that's lying on the ground need to be removed, or if there's some situations where a big log is just a big log buried partly in the ground, and it's not a fire hazard.
Well, I don't claim to be an expert to evaluate that kind of a situation, and assuredly there are experts. I'm a geologist, not a forester or whatever the heck what you're referring to. So we would really just like this situation to be approached by knowledgeable expert people that can make a fair evaluation of what is the fire threat here, and to do what's appropriate and necessary. We're not going to try to prevail on you representing ourselves as experts what what's necessary and what's not necessary. We're just asking for knowledgeable people to address this situation before the fire season gets well underway. And so it's of real concern to us and to your property, of course, as to how this situation should be addressed.
Certainly seems reasonable. Cassie, do you have an update on what's being done to look at the situation?
Perhaps Mark can report on that because the tree service company was here this morning and Mark walked with them to do the tree inspection.
Since I came on August of last year, this has been an ongoing situation. We have contracted with Bartlett Tree Service, Bartlett International, to actually do a tree survey of every tree on this property, which is referred to as Park Horse Hill. They will include every tree that is down on the ground, give us their estimation of fire hazard and best technique to go ahead and remove it. On top of that, we are in the second year of a 3-year phase of going through that area and removing down trees. We did that last year. We had a crew out there for a week. They did about 50% of the upper hillside, and the estimation, unfortunately, of a day for a crew in there to go in there, it's just not realistic. They will certainly give us what those numbers are, and it is a multi-week significant removal of down trees in this area.
So when can we expect that kind of report, Mark?
The hazard report we will have within a week. The health of every single tree, species, age, their recommendation of what to do with those will take 4 to 6 weeks. It is a very highly involved process. They do go out and use GPS to identify every tree on Park Horse. So we will have a full spread of health, species, everything, age, and expected lifespan of those trees.
But when you say trees, does that also include trunks like there are in the picture that are just lying on the ground?
Yes, they have, and I brought this up today, they do have in their arsenal to go ahead and do fire impact, potential fire impact of any down trees. They're going to include that in their analysis, their hazard analysis of what we should do or may want to do with those trees.
So you would expect we'd get a report that you could act on prior to the driest part of our coming fire season?
Absolutely, and just so you know, I have been in contact with the man that does all of our disc tilling. He will be out by the end of next week to do at least round 1. So we're ahead of the curve for fire season.
Well,
here's another non-expert speaking. You know, the two hazards, large hazards we have are earthquake and forest or brush fires. And obviously, this is not a restaurant out there. There are no ignition points. There are no burners or ovens or deep fat fryers. But it's fuel. And what people, and what codes and what the fire department and what the Press Democrat says is absolutely true. If you get a source of ignition, this is adding fuel. And Mark, absolute respect for the process that's going on. And I'm just asking the question, since we know these are dead trees, and they're down, and they've been down for some time, is there any way to talk to our contractor about removing that dead fuel and drying fuel quicker than they would otherwise recommend other work done on the existing trees or other places?
Well,
as fuel for a brush fire.
They do recommend to go ahead and do it in the fall when the rainy season, as it is, starts here. So when they are out in the field with their chainsaws and their equipment, their chippers, if there is a spark, that they don't cause a fire, that they're there to get the fuel away from. So there is a time frame that we're working here. And again, with the species of trees, with their recommendation to get into the dormant season, if we do trim, as we did, we're doing canopy trimming 4 to 6 feet off the ground of the existing trees, so it doesn't impact in a detrimental way that may kill them. So we're trying to basically thread the needle here to make everyone happy and do what we can to get rid of the fire danger.
That sounds to me that we're waiting until the fire season's over before we address the situation.
We're not. We're not. We're, like I said, this is the second year of a 3-year phase to remove that debris out of there.
But the debris is clearly still there, and if we wait till the summer's over with, then we don't reduce the fire threat this year.
To remove those trees, once we get our report, then we can move forward.
Mark, when do you expect that you'll remove those down dead trees?
It's slated for after September into our winter or fall of this year.
That's after the fire season.
That's after the fire season. With our other mitigations, that's the schedule that we're on. If you want to change it, we're amenable to go ahead and move with that forward.
I'm confused now. Yeah. I thought in response to one thing Bill was saying, that you said you have a program to move ahead right now to remove some material. And then on the other hand, I heard you say...
Once we have the report of, they're going to do a fire analysis, fire hazard, then we can move forward with their independent experts of what that danger is, and then we can go ahead, put an estimate together, because it is going to have a significant dollar impact, and then go ahead and move forward. There's also, when we did this last fall, had many comments from association members that consider down trees as nature reclaiming itself. That there is an ecology that is wrapped around these down trees, and to leave them and let them decay to basically feed the next generation. So that's one of the things that we're trying to balance about what we see as a need for fire potential for the hazard removal, but also what nature does. So there's two competing.
Well, I hope we're not ruled by the habitat of the critters. I mean, the nearby residents are concerned about potential fire damage rather than the ecology of that area. And I don't mean to say that ecology isn't important, but you know, fire hazards are more important perhaps than the bugs and bunnies, at least if you're in that area.
Certainly a different perspective personally, and it is from your association members in Pleasant Valley that these comments have come from. So I'm not sure how to reconcile that beyond to move forward with the plan that we have.
John? Bob? I would suggest we thank Mark, excuse him for any further waterboarding here, and discuss it amongst the board here. Is that all right?
It's completely up to you, whatever we have, have taken steps, and we are taking steps to go ahead and mitigate it, but in talking with Kathy until we know what the true health of all the trees are up there, including the down ones, to have a really clear path moving forward.
Thank you.
I would like to finish that comment and think that we might be able to short circuit this and remove fuel before the real dry season hits. And then if that requires an execution of a work order to our arborists and tree people, so be it.
I'd like to look at this in a little different perspective. Bill?
Yes.
Thank you for your input on this. I understand why your concern is legitimate. What it boils down to at the end is risk analysis, deciding, for example, as Mark pointed out, anytime you have machinery working in an area where you have dry fuel, all it takes is an ignition source to start a fire. So that's one side of the risk. The other one is saying, well, if we wait till later in the year, we're betting that there's not going to be an ignition source that we're going to cause on purpose, and that we look at the situation at a later time. So it's a risk analysis. Let me give you another example. If you have a log or a tree, branch, or whatever lying down on the ground, if they're not near something else, they're not going to transfer flame from one point to the next. That's the main thing when firefighting. Incidentally, I spent 6 years as a firefighter. The problem here is we have to take a look at the entire situation, and the thing from the Bartlett tree people is going to give us one piece of that. Then we'll look at, put the other pieces together, and at that point we'll have enough information to make an intelligent decision as whether it makes sense to do this now or this later, or do part of it now or part of it later, and where to put our focus. So I think for us to try to today to figure that out doesn't make sense until we get all the pieces. And all I can assure you is that we're going to try to give us the most intelligent solution that we can.
One quick comment, if I may, is that it's true that the down trees are not actually contiguous, but we've got dead grass in between the areas, and so it's pervasive. Dead grass would be pervasive, and so there really aren't fire breaks within that area. And so it's going to be kind of a continuous threat within that area. So,
It seems to me that they've already, this down tree situation has already been determined to be a fire hazard. And to go into a study situation which will just buy time, which is during a very critical time for the fire season, seems to me we should take care of the logs now that are the problem, and then you don't have to worry about what the report's going to be after the fire season has been going by.
Mark, how many down logs do you think there are?
We counted almost 50.
So would you say a reasonable estimate would have been $500 per log to remove, or is that too high or too low?
Probably a little low. When we walked it, we gave a rough estimate of about 3 weeks for a 4-man crew. And most of that is to be able to get the trees off there. We looked at different scenarios. They're going to send us a rough estimate of what we talked about, and so we'll have some kind of number to go with the report. The one thing that we're looking at to do in a report, if there are trees that are standing that appear to be dead, that we would roll into an estimate for removal with the down trees. So we would go in there at one time, do a full cleanup with everything that is a hazard, and have the least amount of impact and cost for us.
John, if I could make a quick comment, is that we're really not looking for a Cadillac solution here. I mean, something that deals with trees that are some substantial distance from the residences. I mean, I don't know if there's a way of trying to remove the immediate and closest fire threat as opposed to a total cleanup of dead trees that are significantly removed at distances. So I'm not trying to make it more complicated than it needs to be, but I'm wondering if there could be a phase 1 and a phase 2 approach to this kind of a project rather than trying to hit a home run. And that's just a question, and it's just something that comes to mind.
You know, and I think you're talking to a board that doesn't have any personal expertise, and so we're going to have to rely on what the manager and the outside agency that we've hired to come back and tell us. And unfortunately, that appears to have at least a slight delay in giving us more information.
And we understand that, and we don't dispute that that's a sensible approach. It's just that I don't know if there's a phase 1 or phase 2 possibility here or not. Just something I would ask if you'd consider.
I appreciate your effort and those of your associates in the homeowner association in just bringing the subject to our attention this way. We'll respond as effectively as we can.
Well, thank you for your attention. Appreciate it.
Unless there's some proposed action some board member wants to recommend at this time, we'll look for the report to come in and proceed at that point. The next item on the agenda, without mentioning the individual's name, involves a request to waive late fee charges. Do you want to have any comments on this, Kathy?
Yes, I'd like the board to make a determination that they give me manager approval to remove some of these late fees so that you don't have to be bothered every meeting with them.
You mean the subject of late fees in general, or this particular one?
The subject of late fees in general, I don't think it's, the issues are pretty clear cut. If someone is late once every year and a half, and they want a late fee removed, you have customarily approved the removal because they have a clearly proven track record and they're not a habitual violator and they're not habitually late. And I don't see why that needs to come in front of the board. I can do that as well as you can.
And is there some limited authority that CFM has to remove late fees?
No, they don't have any authority to remove them. They do.
Hello?
Yep. What number are you, Kat?
What number am I? I am, no, what is that, 12?
Two.
Oh, I see, it's an H. It's 2.
Okay.
Hello?
Oh, nice.
Okay, CFM, when a resident calls, will reverse late fees, interest, the one-time impact, and they get that once every 12 months. But when you get people chronically being assessed with late fees and so forth, then that becomes a board decision. CFM cannot authorize refunding or waiving anything beyond that one-time forgiveness, which can be as much as $50 because there's a statement fee of $50. And they have and do reverse them when the resident requests that. But when it's multiple assessments, then it comes to the OVA board.
I guess my comment to that is, this one is for something like $82. And if they moved, if they forgot to change their records for the bank, so they had a couple of checks returned, something like that, I think that's a workable issue, and I don't think it's an indication of someone being chronically late. If someone was chronically late, maybe 2 or 3 times in a year, I would say you wouldn't remove the late fees. It's just I'm offering that up to you. It doesn't mean I strongly advocate that I have the power to remove these late fees. It's just that if you don't want to deal with that, perhaps at a workshop, we could make some kind of policy about what I can and can't remove or up to what amount.
Well, Kathy's comment that CFM deals with this naturally as far as a first time in 12 months. I just appreciate your recommending what you would like to do beyond that, because I don't see any reason we have to deal with it as an individual item on a board agenda. If there's some middle ground for you to take action that maintains a consistent posture that's fair to the association and residents.
Okay.
There's so many different ways that electronics get into the process these days. We need to manage it as efficiently as possible. In this particular case, is there a motion to, or a suggestion on your part, Cassie, that we waive this fee or that we not waive this fee?
Well, what do you think, Kathy?
Sorry, I was just letting you know what CFM can do and has done. The other thing I just want to comment about, so the board is reminded that there was a motion and a procedure or policy adopted by the board within the last 60 days, maybe a little bit more than that, 90 days, where you would only, there was a cap, you would only forgive $50 when it's a chronic situation. So you created a limit of what you would waive. So that policy needs to be remembered and overridden, whatever.
Well, that's something that will have to come back. Yes, Fran.
Mr. President, I would just wanted to, am I on?
No,
not on. I'm not on?
You're on.
I'm 45.
No, she's number 4.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Because I think this, a lot of this late payments is due to just confusion. some people still aren't adjusting to not being able to pay your dues downtown, you know, right here. And I see too that you can pay those dues, but it is to Phoenix, and also, of course, to Concord. So really, with the fact that you can send it so many places, and sometimes we do not get enough time. I have received my bill and had 2 days to pay it, and I don't always pay my bills in 2 days. You have other things that come up. So I think it's a good idea if you handle it, Cassie.
So far as this case is concerned,
In this particular instance, it appears to be a problem with Wells Fargo Bank. They didn't have enough identification on the checks that they sent, so they were rejected. And it said there is a reason that the checks are being rejected by the association's bank. Payment checks need to match 2 of the bank's 3 criteria in order to be applied: name, address, and account number. The Wells Fargo bill pay checks are printed with the wrong information for this property. The name on them is your husband, Frank, and the address, blah, 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 and the only item that matches is the account number. So in this particular instance, I would waive this.
can we have a motion to waive the late fee? Moved by Bob Giddings, seconded by Herm Hess, to waive the late fee for this resident in the amount of $82.55. All in favor? Thank you. The next item on the agenda, item 11E, it's a continuation of the discussion and action, if appropriate, from our last workshop. We discussed at the workshop the pros and cons of OVA sponsoring off-campus trips, particularly in light of the situation that we have 2 local companies that provide trips that are used by Oakmont residents. And our experience, as we saw in the special report prepared by the staff, is that of the 10 trips that were offered, 4 of them had to be canceled with the associated charges. And so I'm looking for an expression of viewpoints as far as the board is concerned in terms of discontinuing all off-campus trip activity at some point in time, or proceeding with things the way they are.
I'll start out there with a motion to discontinue OVA-sponsored off-campus trips.
Moved by John Felton, seconded by Fran Diaz, to discontinue all OVA off-campus trip scheduling and managing. Discussion? Yes, Andy. I got it. Speak right into it.
My understanding was that the 4 trips that were canceled were predominantly shopping trips. Is that correct? But the other trips, we fill those up, the ones to the shows, and they're not filled up?
3 of the trips were shopping trips that were canceled. 1 of them was a performance of Mephistopheles.
It was a performance. How about the other 6 trips? What kind of occupancy? On the buses?
I'm really not the one to speak about this. Penny is, but it's just my experience in the office since I've been here. Attendance and interest in these bus trips has waned year after year. When I first started in '98, people were standing outside the door for hours waiting to sign up, and we would sometimes reserve a second bus because we had enough people, 40 more, that wanted to go on the same trip, and so a second bus was ordered. But each year this has declined.
And have we reached out to the people that take these trips at all to find out what they feel about discontinuation?
Oh, no.
So we're having this discussion here, and we don't really know what the membership is.
We had it on the agenda for the workshop, in order to give the community opportunity to comment on whether or not there was. And I haven't asked Cassie whether or not there was any feedback of any kind.
There was no feedback. There were a couple of people here that spoke up and said that they enjoyed the trips, but their other statement is they did enjoy the trips and they're not going anymore. That was their comment. And then the other comment that was made is, remember the day tripper is now on site at Oakmont, and that does offer a huge variety of trips for people who live.
Good selection, but it's a much different place.
Yes.
I think this is on, is it? Yeah. I'm inclined to support the motion for no other reason than I can't think of, and this is just an aspect of that decision, I can't think of another OVA-sponsored activity that would remove huge amounts of liability to the OVA in this, other than closing swimming pools, which is not going to happen. But, you know, it's an aspect.
That's true, and if for me, what I see as maybe a future in the social activities for Oakmont is I would like to see Penny put her efforts to more local activities that the people in Oakmont themselves can benefit on site more, as opposed to off-site. So there's been discussions about having another picnic, and Penny's working on a golf, what is it, a putting contest amongst the committee members. And to me, I would like her to see more community involvement in things on the property between the golf course and
You know, my thinking on this, I come down to the office twice a month to sign checks. And there's a big stack of checks. It's not that it's a difficult job, but every time I do it, I notice that there are refunds for trips that were canceled. That means that our staff took the time, take the money in, get it to the bank, try to coordinate things. Then it falls short, the trip's canceled, they gotta call everybody back, tell them it's canceled, and issue refund checks for everybody. Doesn't make sense to me. On the second issue is my feeling personally is I'd like to see us support our local businesses. And one of the companies is coming here and apparently is doing a good job. I don't feel that Oakmont should be in competition with them, because it costs us time and energy to do it ourselves. Someone else is competing with that. I think we need to get out of that business.
My understanding was that most, if not all, of the trips that were being offered by Penny were redundant with what day trippers were providing. And those that weren't, there just wasn't enough interest by Oakmont.
Other comments?
The other question is, if this is to be discontinued, you might want to put in the motion, is it effective immediately? Because she does have 2 more trips through June offered.
So I guess the question back to you is, are there trips that she has been planning for this year that have not yet actually been offered for sign-up?
No, I don't think so. I think she just has trips planned through June, and that's it.
So that if this motion were passed, it would simply affect those through the month of June?
Yes. Is there anything else on the board? Is it?
I really can't be certain. I don't know what she's doing. And what happens with the bigger events, you know, I mean big Broadway shows, in order to hold a block of seats, you have to make a ridiculous 10% deposit 6, 8, 9 months in advance. So I don't know what might be in the pipeline.
Okay. She hasn't done any of that. I haven't seen a check or anything like that.
I think perhaps the simplest way out of that is to put a notice out that we're not having any more. And finish off the ones we got on the books, and that's the end of it.
If we were to amend the motion to discontinue trips effective with, what?
To discontinue offering any, from now on, offered immediately, any new trips, and that the trips that are on the books would be completed.
Is that acceptable? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the facility use indemnification form. At our workshop, we discussed the implications of risk and release of liability and the use of indemnification forms in the fitness center and for Grandchildren's Week as being something possibly quite different from a general use of it for people playing tennis or swimming or what have you. And so the item on the agenda today is to discuss the extent to which we want to continue with indemnification forms or to drop them. Does someone want to make a motion regarding continuation or discontinuation of indemnification forms?
I'll make that motion. The motion would be to eliminate, effective immediately, all indemnification forms except as they apply to the fitness center.
Is there a second? Yes, David. Second by Andy Altman. Discussion. Bob?
I'm throwing this out as a consideration. I'm not sure I feel 100%, but if we have people coming on campus to give classes, some sort of exercise related, we are currently asking them to have insurance. That is correct.
We will continue to do so.
And they accept, how does that work? If you have 25 people come to a special exercise class, and there's a instructor, a paid instructor, who has insurance, and names us as an additional insured. Okay, I think I just answered my own question. Additional insured.
It's additional insured, there's a distinction. We're more concerned about the people who show up at the class. The class instructors have their own liability insurance, and then we're named as additional insured. And then this indemnification agreement has been handed out. It came up because it was handed out to tennis players and anybody else wanting to use any kind of recreational facility. And somebody finally pushed back and said, really? You know, you can't sign away my rights to sue in case something would happen. So that's the reality.
Especially when they pay the premium.
Right.
I guess I would raise the question about whether or not the past use of it in grandchildren's activities is something that we ought to consider including in the motion. Because one of the examples offered to us in our workshop was a specific release for the youngsters that come for grandchildren. And they're being exposed to, what do you call it, bouncing, fun houses. They're on the tennis court. They're involved in swimming activities. Is there anything unique about our exposure that we ought to consider liability releases in this situation?
Again, I'm not an expert on that at all, John, but I would want to throw this in, and that is that the coverage that we get from Philadelphia, I think it's still called, they may have changed it, OLNT, Owners, Landlords, and Tenants coverage, which is our general liability, and it comes out of a rate table for primary insurance. And those rates come out of claims over a period of time, plus the expenses and profit. Not to put too fine a point on it, but those classifications that say homeowners associations are not based upon, do you have a grandchildren's weekend or an Easter weekend with grandchildren. They're based on how many units you have or how many swimming pools you have, or maybe perhaps what the acreage is, or a combination of those. What those tables, and those tables represent rates for $1,000 in liability or whatever. They anticipate that human beings are conducting human activities like swimming pools and having kids over and things like that. Myself, I don't see that we have to separate out the grandparents club and the children, because this is a normal human activity in an HOA. It's a senior HOA, and certainly we've been completely transparent to our carriers on who we are. We're not saying we're a disco and we're an HOA or vice versa.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Herb?
Yeah, I think the question is begged is, are there any activities sponsored by Oakmont that are not covered by Oakmont insurance?
No.
Any other discussion? So the motion we have is to discontinue the use of facility use indemnification forms in all cases except for access to the fitness center. You want to read it to us?
Eliminate all indemnification forms except as they apply to the fitness center.
Thank you. Call for the question. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And now we go to unfinished business. The first item, 12A, is the manager's proposal and Kathy's fine editing work on a policy regarding refunds. Do you have any comments on this, Cassie?
Basically, this is a combination of some policies that have been made over the years. And the refund request is for people who have didn't realize that if a spouse has died and they keep on paying that assessment, that they don't need to pay that assessment anymore. And when they finally realize that, they ask for refunds. But a lot of times, it's not only a spouse, it would be the maybe the parents' children, and who now have title to the property, and 3 years pass and they realize that perhaps they're entitled to a refund. We've been getting perhaps one of those a month for 3 years, 2 years, 4 years, and I suggested to the board that they make a policy that if someone does discover this, that a fair refund would be up to 12 months in worth of a single assessment.
And according to our minutes, 2 months ago, the board approved a policy position of limiting the refunds to 12 months, falling back a maximum of 1 year. And then we asked you to put this in the form of a policy statement, which is here. I'm wondering if, aside from the policy itself, if there isn't some practice that we need to introduce, ask CFM to put an alert on the billing statements once a year or twice a year to bring the matter to people's attention that it may have passed in a time of stress or been overlooked. Or I also understand from our contract with CFM that if we wanted to, we could actually prepare a notice that they would insert into their mailings. Likewise, I'm just wondering what your feelings are on that.
Great ideas. And keep in mind that this policy has to appear in the newspaper. And then you actually have to adopt it officially at the next board meeting. So it's got to appear first in the newspaper as a policy that the board is proposing, and then at the following board meeting, then that's when you can officially approve it if nobody's objected to the policy.
Okay, there was one other aspect that jumped out to me, and that is the policy statement that you prepared seems to me introduces a $25 charge for new residents identification card. My impression is that new residents now get an identification card without a fee.
Where do you,
Item 2D. Item 2D, last sentence.
Transactions in the OVA office, access cards, facility access cards are issued at a cost of $25 to all new residents. When the card is reported lost by a resident, the office deactivates the lost card to prevent unauthorized use. Residents may obtain a replacement card for $50. Residents vacating Oakmont will receive a $25 refund upon presentation of their card. Seems new.
This came up because people come in, I would say 2 to 3 times a month for replacement cards. And I'm thinking that if there was a dollar value placed on the cards, that people would think of them differently and perhaps not lose them quite so often. And that also if they did lose them, there should be some kind of penalty for losing them. And usually what makes people more thoughtful about what they do with the card is if you attach a dollar value to getting a replacement.
I think those are good points. I think there's another aspect, and that is there's no inducement when a resident leaves
Right.
Oakmont for turning in a card.
Yes.
And therefore, it could be subject to improper use.
Right.
There's another aspect too. If there's a value attached to it, you'd be less likely to bend your card to somebody else. It wasn't authorized.
Can I ask how long has it been $25?
It's been nothing up to this point. $25 would be new.
Yeah.
And you could give it for the first-time person, you could give it to them for nothing, and then just have a $50 replacement fee if they lose it.
While I'm reading this, I thought it was draconian, but that's just my opinion. You manage and live with this daily. Would it be as much as of an incentive if it was $10 up front and $25 for a replacement? Or is that not enough?
No, upon reflection, I think for a new owner, why I thought of this anyway is because I used to manage gated communities. So their gate remotes, they would always have to purchase them. They'd be either from all the way from $45 to $125. And then if they lost them, they'd be charged for that. And very few people lost them, and a lot of people turned them in. So that's where I was going with this. But it's kind of psychological when you're coming into a community and you're all happy and excited about it. It's probably not best to hit them with a fee right off the bat. But just let them know that if they lose it, it's going to be a $50 replacement. And to me, that would carry a lot of weight. And also, you could tell them that if they turn it in, they get the $50 refunded. That would. Oh yeah. Good point, Chuck. You said, yeah, not if they didn't pay it to begin with. You're right. So forget that part.
What?
What was that?
Well,
In other words, if they
right.
get the card for free and then they move out, and then we pay them $50
Right.
for turning it back in.
No, that's not good. That's not good. Yeah, that's not good. But we need to get them back because we're not getting them back.
What your statement reads is that they pay the 25,
Right.
50 if they need to replace it. Anyone leaving the community gets a $25 refund. That's what it's.
Can't the cards be deactivated electronically though?
Yeah.
They can, but we need to know when people are leaving.
You don't pay
Tenants,
the escrow process.
well, yes, in the escrow, but no for the tenants often. OVA does a pretty good job of it. I would say she probably, no?
No.
Oh.
She does as good a job as you can do
Right.
when you get noticed, but I'm telling you, the majority we never hear from.
Yeah.
A woman called today. Hi, I've moved to Lake Tahoe. I understand you'd like to have the card back. I'm like, that would be good. Is that your resident card? And so she said, it's a guest card. Don't I get some money back for that? I said, if you send it to us, we will send you the $10 back. So we'll wait. I mean, you know, if it comes through, then she gets her $10. But, you know, there's a lot of residents, just darling people, they come in and, well, you know, my son, Mike, went back to Asia and took the card with him. You know I'll never get that back. I was like, well, we can't give you a refund.
You can deactivate the card.
Pardon me?
You can deactivate the card once we know.
Well, we don't have a motion in front of us. What's the pleasure of the board? Would you like to see some more work done on this and come back at a future time? Do you want to adopt it and publish it?
I would be in support of what Cassie recommends.
Tell me what that is.
Yeah, Bob, what is that?
Are we on 12D? I thought it was the rewritten
Right.
policy.
I think we are all a little bit caught by surprise by the discussion of this particular element. I'd ask.
I have a suggestion. Well, why don't you? I think you're in agreement about the assessment in the 12 months. And then this came up after we were trying to consolidate some other issues, policies. And just get a general consensus about the access card. Do you even think that there should be a cost for it? And then are they entitled to a replacement at $50 and a refund at $25?
I'd like to make a motion, we table this till next month so we can think about it.
Motion to table. Seconded by Fran. All in favor? In connection with that, Cassie, I think you're thinking about it, you counsel with us as you think about it, some introductory language about the methods that we're going to use to make residents aware of the refund activity, some kind of use of CFM's bill capability.
Okay.
Would be helpful. Did we vote in favor of tabling it?
Yes.
Thank you. Help keep me on target. The next item we have is item 12B. That's CFM's contract, which is up for renewal. As the board requested, Cassie has negotiated with CFM for some modifications in the contract. If I got the right item. Yeah. And you have in your packet the copy of the revisions. Do you want to elaborate on any of this, Cassie?
The basic, there are some general reasons why I think that the board should sign the CFM contract for another year. And let me outline them. There's been no increase in their contract price since 2011, and there's not going to be one this year either. It's $3,983.34 or 90 cents per billable resident, whichever is greater. One of the things that's been very helpful to the past board is they prepare budgets, and in the year 2012 they were able to prepare over 12 different types of budgets for the budget committee. OVA will now be able to collect the late fees. That's in general about $500 a month income that you wouldn't have before because CFM took it. When we've been using their assist program, one of the nice features on it is if we look at a tenant or a resident or an owner, we can type in notes about this person. We can scan any kind of correspondence into that file. We can scan architectural applications into the file. We've been doing this now for, I guess, ever since 2011. And if we went to a different system by a different company, all of that would be lost. We can't transfer those documents. So we'd be starting from scratch again. We log into basically CFM server from our remote desktop connections. And if we went to a different company, that company would have to be able to provide us with that same access. And that's for 6 of our computers. And again, that's not something that every financial management company has the ability to do. If we went to a different system, all the staff would have to be retrained and get used to an entirely new system. We think it would be confusing again for the residents regarding what they had to pay, where they had to pay, when they had to pay. And we haven't been able to find a system that can duplicate the assist scheduling program. The board has, I'm not quite sure how much money it costs to get the program up and running. Do you remember, Kathy? Was it $8,000? Was it? Yes.
No, I don't have that. Chuck?
Do you remember? Okay. It cost money to get the assist scheduling program. It's now up and running. It's working very well, but it was also, because it's a generic program, as all scheduling programs are, there had to be many, many hours, many back and forth emails about tweaking the system for our particular recreational facilities because we have so many options in each of the facility. And it would be very difficult to try and duplicate that kind of scheduling system with anyone again. And again, you'd be starting all over again, retraining all over again, and it took over a year to get that particular system up and running. So for those basic reasons, I recommend hiring CFM for another year.
I have a motion to renew the contract with CFM for the year period July 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2015.
Yeah.
Moved by Herm Hess. Seconded by John Felton. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I was really impressed a year ago when I came on the board and found that the board members were always going to ask for bids, especially is to include people who lived in Santa Rosa or in Sonoma County to bid on our contracts. And as you know, this present contract was never even discussed with the board or with the people of Santa Rosa, I mean of Oakmont. And all of a sudden, it was put upon us. I have objected to it from the very beginning. I feel they are much too expensive. They admit in their own reports the number of mistakes that they have made. I mentioned previously that why should I send my bill to Phoenix, Arizona, when once upon a time I was able to pay it right here in Oakmont. Furthermore, I feel that I realize that no one likes change. It does upset us, but I feel that this community has already gone through a lot of change at I think, a huge expense. I'm worried about the amount of money that the CFM continues to hold with regard to payments, and that we never see it. I am not a financial wizard by any means. I hate to look at these reports, but I will definitely vote against going ahead at this time. What is wrong with going out for bid? You go out for bid for everything else that we do, and you find out, you don't even know if the other companies here in Santa Rosa can provide the same service as this Concord company is providing us. So I will have to vote against the motion.
John, may I address some of these comments?
Please.
Being the treasurer, both under the old system with OAS as well as CFM, the CFM service that we're now experiencing is so far superior to what we had before that I've stated publicly, and I'll state it once again, that if a change is made, I'll no longer be treasurer. I will immediately leave. That's not a threat, that's a promise. And the statement that you made, Fran, that kind of concerned me the most is that CFM is holding our money. That's not even closely, remotely true. The money goes directly into our bank accounts, into OVA's bank accounts. It never goes into a CFM bank account. And a lot of what you said has been rehashed and rehashed so many times about the initial process that we went through, looking at the various companies, the various providers, the various software, and the committee and the board at that time is now almost 4 years ago, decided that CFM offered the best service, and as Cassie said, for the same service, they charge 90 cents per household. They're charging slightly more than OAS did for the same service. We're currently getting much more service from CFM than we got from OAS, and therefore they do charge us extra for the assist software, et cetera, but it's again services that OAS didn't provide.
I think I'd like to put this in a different context, and that would be this. 2 months ago, we had a thorough discussion of the CFM contract and the pluses and minuses of going out to some kind of a bid on the process. And I realize we have a different membership on the board as a result of the election last month. But the board at that time decided that for this year, Oakmont would be best served by continuing with CFM for another year. And at that point, we asked the manager to pursue a contract that improved the benefits to OVA of their services. And so she has done that and come back to us with this actual contract document that reflects two changes that I think we need to be aware of, but otherwise continues what we felt was in the best interests of the community as far as accounting service is concerned. And the two things that she came back with as a result of that negotiation was, one, returning to OVA's treasury the late fees that had been going into the payments or the costs, or pardon me, the profits of CFM, a $500 a month switch in the way the funding is handled. The second thing is that she worked with CFM to accommodate some increases and some eliminations in their fee schedule. And the first one is that there is an increase in escrow fees of $25 a month that gets paid for by the buyers and sellers involved in the escrow transaction, so that the demand fee for escrow documents went up from $100 to $125. if there is a rush for this demand because of an urgent escrow, the fee goes up from $150 to $175. And the sales processing fee goes up from $200 to $225. Those are not funds that involve OVA's account. Those are resident funds involved in sales transactions. So those are the actual changes in the form of the contract that the manager has brought back to us based on the discussion that took place 2 months ago. I'm not saying that with the intent that a change in board membership might result in a different conclusion. I just wanted to put it in the context in which the manager has handled it in response to our direction.
If I may opine just for a second, several things. When I was treasurer many years ago, I'm not the treasurer that Chuck Chenault is, that's for sure. He was a professional. I became very fond of OVS and the help they gave me when I needed help because they were there. And I certainly think the gist of Fran's statement was we put other contracts out to bid each year for the most part. Can we not do that? I haven't been on the board long enough to influence one way or the other that, but I don't think that's a bad idea. But number 3 is the biggest thing to me. We look to our professionals. And here today we have Cassie and Kathy. And I think both of them, from what I can tell, are quite pleased with the service. We pay our dues through CFM and perhaps some other things when we need them to buy or sell a home. But the daily users are our professional staff, and their opinion counts a lot. Next to them is our treasurer, who's getting more of what he wants, and that opinion counts a lot. So I'm going to support it, but I sure would like to see next year a bid go out. That's all.
One caveat to that is, let's say we would go out to bid next year. We would have to go out to, first of all, there are no other companies that are local that can handle accounting besides OAS. So that's one thing, but you're talking about a possibility of a software change then, complete software change. So saying going out to bid is one thing, and I can try and find other companies. I believe there's another financial management company in Sacramento that has a SIS program software. I think that's the only one in even close in this area, but that's something also.
Cassie, could, if you're talking about going out for a bid next year, could you include that they shall submit a program that is compatible with the existing software?
There is no such thing.
No?
So in marketing, they call this cost of switching.
Right.
So they put the bar so high you don't want to switch. Okay.
So anytime you ask us to do this, just know that anytime all of the years of history that we've been building up in all of these, everyone's file is going to be lost.
I agree with Bob in the fact that it's something that we really should be looking at on a regular basis. It's not something that we should look at to switch every single year, because it is something, it's the core of our business right here. It's running the office in a lot of respects. But in all fairness, if you let a vendor be your vendor indefinitely, you are not going to get the value that you should be getting on a regular basis. So you need to reach out and test the waters. As far as the technology is concerned, I really struggle with the fact that this data is not transferable. I've worked with a lot of different systems, a lot of different industries, and we've had historical data, and there is always a way to convert it, switch it. It depends on who bears the cost of it. Training and implementation is a whole different story, but as far as data is concerned, I don't think we'll lose everything. I'm pretty sure we'll capture it. But it's something I think is very important that we look at over the next year. Is really analyzing if CFM is our provider of choice going forward.
I'm glad you bring that up, Andy, because we've got at least two areas of our responsibilities as board managers that need some further study and thorough understanding on our part. And one of them is this business systems operation. The other is our reserve funding program. And you know, one of the things at our workshop that we're going to have to talk about, I think, is who among us as directors are going to take the lead to try and provide a level of understanding on these subjects so that we know what we can do. Because right now, it just seems insurmountable to me that we would change an accounting process in midstream. There are just too many things interchanged that I don't understand. I feel almost shackled to going ahead with this, and I'm pleased to see that Kathy got some adjustments that are beneficial.
One of the things, John, is I do understand it because I worked for a financial management company for 7 years. It was both a financial and a regular management company. And it's unbelievably complicated to change accounting, software, systems, get people used to all of the different scheduling, how they prepare the accounting. I mean, Chuck can speak to that, but again, you know, if you want me to go out to bid with this next year, what I would try and do probably is try and find people with the assist accounting system, and then plan B would be to go out in general. But it's an extremely complicated undertaking, and the amount of time and energy it'll take, plus the stress of everyone going through it, particularly the office people, is something that the board should consider.
Well, you know, I think that we would all reflect that because we know how complicated it has been to go from our OAS arrangement to CFM. So I think it would be easy to understand that there would be similar complexities, if not more so, to go from that to TOPS or whatever the new current Best Buy process. Do we have a motion? We do. We do have a motion to continue this CFM contract. Is there other discussion? Call for the...
Just a quick question. Does the bookkeeping and the scheduling always have to be hand in glove? Can the bookkeeping, keeping track of numbers, be separated from the scheduling? I don't see why they're necessarily associated.
The answer that was given to us by the people that made the recommendation to go into this assist and scheduler program is that they don't have to go hand in glove, but there are some advantages to their being hand in glove. The example of that is that CFM and the assist program support the scheduler program. If they had gone to the TOPS system 3 years ago, there was no relationship between the TOPS system and the scheduler program. We would have had to deal with two different providers.
But can't you, isn't the bookkeeping taking in the money and putting out the money? And scheduling is scheduling. So why couldn't they be two separate companies doing it? I mean, why couldn't OAS or somebody do the bookkeeping and whoever at CFM or somebody do the assist program? I'm just asking the question.
The assist program is integral to the bookkeeping process. It's the scheduler that is a possible separate component.
Well, I thought scheduling was part of assist. No?
It is, but you can separate that part of it. But the last quote I got from them, and I don't know if this is true or not, I didn't get it from CFM, I got it from the people who are the IT people for Assist, and they said a standalone system for the scheduling, if we purchased that equipment, would be $40,000.
Kathy, would you read the motion, please?
Let's see, renew CFM contract for a period July 2014 through June 2015.
I call the question.
All in favor? All opposed? 2 opposed. Motion passes. The item 12C is the appointment of committee liaisons. This was deferred from our organization meeting on the 8th of the month. Having talked with the individual directors, I would ask Andy Altman to take on the liaison responsibility for communication, Frances Diaz to continue her liaison relationship with the OCDC, John Felton to continue with his liaison responsibilities with the Oakmont Emergency Preparedness Committee, Herm Hess to continue as liaison for long-range planning. Alan Scott has said he would be liaison for the LIC because it's an activity he very much enjoys working on as well as serving as liaison. And Bob Giddings would be liaison for the Architectural Committee. In addition, John Felton has agreed to serve, as the procedures call for it, as quarterly committee chairman for a quarterly meet, pardon me, as chairman for the quarterly committee meeting of chairs and liaisons to coordinate the activities of our committees. Comments or questions? Item 12D is the facility visit schedule. We all were reminded by Cassie's email to bring our calendars with the idea that we could go step by step to first of all plan a couple of dates for our facility visits and then to plan a date for the goal setting. And thirdly, I think as we heard requested by Tony Lakowitz during the open forum, to schedule a time to get together with the Long Range Planning Committee before our goal setting session. If we could start out with simply a discussion of dates such as the 2nd of May, it's a Friday. Is that a date that would be open on people's calendar to have half a day devoted to one of our facility visits?
What time are you saying?
I didn't say a time.
I'm tied up in the afternoon.
So you'd be available in the morning on the 2nd? Pardon me? Okay. What time are you involved on Friday afternoon? All afternoon?
I have a doctor appointment at 2:15.
That takes you out. Let's go to Monday the 5th.
I can make it in the afternoon, not in the morning.
How about Monday the 5th in the afternoon? Everybody's nodding their heads? That's fine. All right, then we'll plan our first facility visit starting at the West Rec at, does 10 o'clock work for everybody, or do you want to do it earlier?
10 o'clock, generally where?
Pardon me?
John, I'm sorry. You're saying Monday the 5th in the morning?
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
Afternoon, I'm sorry.
1 o'clock.
What is it?
1
p.m. to
1 p.m. work?
That works until 3 p.m.
Okay. So we'll plan a 2-hour, or 1 to 3.
So it's West Rec at what time?
At 1 o'clock on Monday afternoon, the 5th.
Done.
And if we move through that expeditiously, I don't see any reason why we can't go on and move, let's say, to the east and hit 2 of the places at the same time and make good use of our schedule. What about Wednesday the 7th for a second trip? Wednesday the 7th is good for Bob. How about you, Herm?
Afternoon.
Afternoon on Wednesday?
10 a.m. class with me.
I'm tied up in the afternoon.
Bring a night.
I could change things if it turns out I'm the only problem.
You're the only problem.
Nothing's changed.
We'll have a facility visit on Wednesday afternoon, the 7th, starting at 1 p.m. at Central. And hopefully we can cover both the burger situation as well as the Central activity and the other aspects of the Cabanian pool.
That was at 1.
At 1 o'clock on the 7th. Let's move ahead here. What about Friday, the 9th, in the afternoon?
Good.
After 1.
You mean like 2 o'clock rather than, or 1 o'clock? 1 o'clock is okay. Let's also plan then, as a fallback position for a facility visit at 1 o'clock on Friday the 9th.
Where?
Where?
East is what they left.
We'll put down east for the time being, but we may have covered the east first, and so we'll come back to
It's whatever's left over.
whatever's left over. Thank you.
You want to, are we eating before or after?
Pardon me?
Are we eating before or after?
Before. 1 o'clock.
At the east.
At the east.
Yes.
And I'll get out a note to you just to confirm all this. Okay. We don't have Tony Lakowitz here to coordinate with the Long Range Planning Committee, but they are going to meet again on Tuesday the 27th at 10 in the morning. If I were to contact him to see about getting together with them for another date, is a date like Wednesday the 14th open
You
on?
want me to contact him?
I'll do it.
Okay. He has said that he would like for the board as to set a goal to approve their long-range plan.
Yes.
Not the entire plan. What he wants now is to go over what your goals will be once you've seen the facilities and how that ties into, to take something to an extreme. You might want to tear down the burger building, okay? How does that fit in their long-range plan?
Yeah,
So once you've seen the facilities, goal setting, and then, and in conjunction with that, talk to the long-range planning committee so that they can see if your goals are folding into their long-range plan.
Yeah, I think he wants to eliminate redundancies
Right.
too.
So are you suggesting that we should have that meeting with them before or after our goal setting? Before, I think.
That's what he suggested.
Yeah. So, if we have seen the facilities and developed, maybe we should just set aside some time on the 14th for us to discuss what we have learned as a result of those facility visits. Is that where we're coming at? Sure.
And you can have a discussion with them also, or unless you want to talk to them.
Good, but where?
I'm sorry, I'm still catching up with you. The 14th is okay with people in the afternoon.
That's what day?
That's a Wednesday.
Wednesday the 14th.
Until 3 o'clock, John, I'm sorry, I can't cancel.
Okay?
It shouldn't last 2 hours.
No.
That gives us an incentive to get going and get it done.
1 to 3 on the 14th, and we'll do that in the Suite 9.
Suite 9?
I'll look at.
Okay, then how much after these dates do you want to plan goal setting? You want to carry that over into June, for instance? Get our date?
Yes, I think that goal setting, I think you need to meet with the long-range planning committee, somewhere in there.
That's what they're gonna do on May 14th.
That's gonna be the May 14th one?
Yeah.
Did I miss that? That you're meeting with the Long Range Planning Committee on May 14th?
I was hoping the long-range planning
Okay.
committee would be able.
All right.
27, that's their meeting.
No, that's their meeting.
Okay. Then anytime after that is fine for the goal setting.
What's the date? Then we have another board meeting on the, we just talked about the 14th from 1 to 3 in the afternoon.
Oh, the next one's gonna be in June.
So now we're talking about goal setting. Should we set,
How about the 20th?
That's a board meeting.
that's our board meeting date.
How about doing it in the middle of the workshop?
No, workshops are the first Tuesday of the month.
On the,
That won't be till June. The workshop will be the way first.
I hate to push this off again, but we will have our workshop on the 3rd of May. That's our usual scheduled Tuesday workshop at 3 o'clock here on the 3rd of May. Let's continue this calendar discussion about the actual goal-setting date and confirmation of meeting with the Long Range Planning Committee until we talk again at the workshop. Yes.
What's the date, May? 8th.
May the 3rd, pardon me, May the 6th, we have our workshop.
3rd's a Saturday.
May the 6th at 3 o'clock, we have our workshop right here. We'll continue the discussion of some scheduling things. I think we've got 4 times laid out. We've got 1 to 3 p.m. on the 5th at the West Rec. We've got 1 to 3 p.m. on the 7th at the Central. We have 1 to 3 p.m. at the East on the 9th. And we have 1 to 3 p.m. in Suite 9 on the 14th.
John, excuse me, sir. Yeah. On the workshop for May 6th.
Yes,
And the time?
3 o'clock.
Okay. Now, at 6 to 8 is when we have the board meeting new residents.
Yes, you have a full day of activity. You're going to finish up a workshop here at 5 o'clock, and you're going to drive yourself right down to the Berger Auditorium, along with Cassie,
I'll bring lunch.
for the new residents reception.
They have food, remember?
Were you looking for some time off?
You don't have to go with that.
Cassie says you could be excused.
Yeah, you can be excused from the new residents workshop.
Okay.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, moving ahead. I would ask for a motion to, as a corrective step because of my omission at our organization meeting, to reaffirm the appointment of the ad hoc committee for pickleball courts, site selection and development. We did reaffirm all of our other standing and ad hoc committees, and I neglected to include the ad hoc committee on pickleball where Cassie Turner is the chair, Anita Easlin, Noel Lyons, Jane Young, Michael Goff, Mac Hinchman, and Don Green are the members of the committee.
So moved.
Second by Bob, all in favor? We've reaffirmed.
What's involved on this, when you talk about committees, in having the constitution of the committees be changed, as I mentioned in the members forum, so that some of the people are qualified under the category, whatever it might be, and others may not have the qualifications currently required to be on the committee, but they may have good ideas and want to be on the committee. What's involved in trying to get that change made? Or at least
The
considered?
committees need to recommend changes in their charters.
So every committee individually?
Pardon?
Every committee individually would have
Yes.
to do that?
Yeah, each committee has their own charter.
Because the board is the one that approves the membership.
The board is the one that approves the charters as well as the membership.
Okay, so that's Thank you.
The next item is to reaffirm the trial use of the East Rec and Burger for large exercise and game groups. At the August 20th board meeting, the minutes reflect the fact that the board approved the use of East and Burger facilities for large fitness and game groups, i.e. groups over 40 people. 3 groups took advantage of that, one being an exercise group in the Burger, and that group has consistently had numbers in the 50s and approaching 60. The second was an American Mahjong game group having their activities here. They have fluctuated between the high 30s and the mid 40s. The third was a bridge group on Tuesday, and they failed even to consistently come up to 30. And so they have been dropped out of that process. But I think it's an activity, it's an experiment that we need to continue in order to see how these 2 groups, the exercise group wanting to even expand beyond what they've been doing, continue to function. So I would ask for a motion to reaffirm the trial use of East and Burger for large exercise and game groups for an additional 9 months for the balance of this year. Moved by Herm Hess, seconded by Andy Altman. Is there any discussion we need to have on that? All in favor? It's continued for the balance of the year. The last item on the agenda is an item that was tabled a month ago regarding replacing the screen in the CAC Room B. You have in your packet the Sound Expressions proposal, which on reflection is reduced below the $6,000 figure that was on the table a month ago to $4,837.17. Do I have a motion to take that off the table and to approve the screen at $4,837.17? Moved by Herm Hess, seconded by John Felton. Is there a discussion of this now? So we've got it off the table in front of us.
We don't have any other screens that could be moved over?
According to staff, we don't. And I can't tell you technically what the ramifications of that are.
On page 111, it says we are recommending in the last paragraph, we are who? We are, is it the MC again, or?
Yes.
Okay.
And the maintenance manager, Bob.
Oh, okay.
Can you tell us what's special about that screen to help answer Andy's?
Mark checked that screen out to see if that would fit, and it has to do with they're ceiling mounted or wall mounted and the size and what they have to attach it. And that's all I know. And Mark isn't here anymore, so.
I think I could go. Yeah.
What happened originally, it looked like it had to be ceiling mounted and it complicated the installation considerably. Drove the cost where they went back and reevaluated, found out that they could wall mount it. Simplified installation, so we picked up the difference in cost there. The other question at the time was what had caused the original damage, and that had been taken care of. There was a kind of a little shelf that stuck out behind it that should have been removed in the first place. It's history, and staff recommends that we go ahead with this this direction, and I'm definitely going to vote for it.
All in favor? Thank you. Motion passes for the new screen. Are there recommendations for future board meeting agenda items? Yes.
Yes, I think at the next meeting, we'll be ready to discuss details of the switchgear location, transformer change, and those kinds of things. Right now, we're just waiting for PG&E to come back with us. But in another 4 weeks, we should be able to discuss that and have some costs in mind.
Are there any particular things that you would like to have included in our workshop agenda items? Fran?
Do we need these now?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I wanted to ask about a survey that we talked about with regard to the oak trees here at Oakmont. We were wondering if the landscape committee might do this, but I don't know whether anybody carried that through or not. The thing is that, you know, we listened to a report today about the oaks that are dying, or those that are on the ground even. But we are having a lot of death of oaks right here on the flatlands here. And I don't know whether the private owner pays for the removal of those trees, or they do. Okay, well, at least they should be identified. We wouldn't want a tree to fall on anyone or anything of that sort. Maybe no one has thought about that, but we did talk about it here in the board meeting as to whether we should make a census or something of the oak trees and how they're dying.
I didn't remember that it was limited to oak trees, but I would thought this was part of what the survey was that Mark talked about earlier.
It could be part of a survey, but once you see the price of that survey for the entire common area of Oakmont, you might be aghast. Look aghast. I don't know. And now that they've actually been out here, they might have a better idea as to the cost, and we can get a cost estimate from them. But it could be $20,000, $30,000 just to survey, because they have to check each and every tree.
I'll put it down as a possible future agenda item.
But why would the cost make any difference if the owners have to pay for the removal of those trees?
Well, in other words, I didn't realize that the board was talking about an entire community-wide tree inspection. I would really think that that would be the individual association's responsibility to check their common area trees and their owners' trees, and then we're a recreational association responsible for our common areas, and I think that then that's the test that we should do if.
It was the latter, just as you stated.
Right.
You have maintained and unmaintained areas.
Right.
Who's going to do that? As an offshoot of that, I see a possibility if we made a survey by homeowners, their own input about what they've got, and we got some number of trees that we knew were going to have to get done, we might be in a position to coordinate a group buy or group price to come in and take care of a bunch of them at once as a service to people, where the money wouldn't come out of our pocket.
Yeah.
As a possible workshop item, I think John Heilbronner had come up with a couple comments regarding the number of used cars, and also something about all the signs.
I have that noted down.
Why don't you add to that the corner street vendors on the weekends? That people call in about that also.
About what vendors?
The vendors selling oranges and strawberries inside of Oakmont.
Okay.
The corner.
No idea.
Hearing nothing else? Andy?
I'm not sure of the appropriate process for this, but the ad hoc committee for architectural fines will be creating its final recommendation next week, and I didn't know if that would be better serve the board to be presented at a workshop or at a board. I would expect there to be quite a bit of conversation.
I think it would be very helpful, and if it would be ready for our workshop on the 3rd, that would be fine.
The timing is everything.
It'll be close. We'll try to make it for the 3rd.
If not, we'll carry it over to the next one. I appreciate the alert. Hearing nothing further, the meeting is adjourned to executive session.